in this episode, we'll explore No Other Land, the powerful documentary on Palestinian displacement, and connect the movie back to Taiwan's recent debates over aid, protest, and diplomacy with Israel. From cinema to foreign policy, how do stories of land and identity as well as humanitarian discussions extend across borders? Stay tuned to find out on today's cinematic motif. Hey, come on! The screening is about to begin! This is Cinematic Motif. Hello, I'm Wanson, a film critic and a content creator, and welcome back to Cinematic Motif, where I introduce you films in Taiwan and around the world. Alright, today we're going to touch on something more related to the current affairs right now. We're going to talk about the Palestinian crisis happening right now, and also as we talked about in the teaser earlier, its relation to Taiwan's recent stories about aiding Israel. So, first of all, I want to ask you this question. Have you ever watched this movie, the best documentary feature film at the 97 Oscars actually earlier this year? We're going to talk about the movie No Other Land, or in Mandarin Chinese, the translation is 你的国我的家. So this is a 2024 documentary film directed by 4 activists. It is actually a collaboration between Israeli directors, journalists, and Palestinian journalists, Palestinian filmmakers. It recorded the 2019 to 2023 destruction of a Palestinian community in the occupied West Bank. So, I think the 4 producers in this film, they're doing something as in resistance to the Israeli and Palestinian conflict. Now, this is not just something that I said, this is also what the 4 activists said during an interview talking about their work on this film because of the Oscars winning, and they got a lot of attention internationally and worldwide. So today, we're going to talk about the film and the recent development of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, including how it influences Taiwan's diplomatic policy. So, I would like to give you a brief preview, or let's say a brief summary of what happened in this documentary film, in case you haven't watched this film. So, I watched this film in Paris, when I was in Paris, and I watched this film in French subtitles. So, yeah, some things, I mean, it was a big challenge for me. Anyway, so the film talks about a young Palestinian activist called Basel. He's from Masafa Yatta in the occupied West Bank. This is also the community that was destroyed in this documentary film. So, Basel has resisted forced displacement by the Israeli military since childhood. We know that Israeli settlement is when Israeli military and also peasants, they go to occupy some of the land of the Palestinian people, and basically the main character of this documentary, Basel, is a victim of this sort of settlement and forced displacement. So he documents the destruction of his homeland because he is actually a journalist, including home demolitions and evictions. And in this documentary film, we can also see that there is a Israeli court ruling. So the court upheld that Masafa Yatta, this place, it should be an Israeli military firing zone, and it is legal under Israeli law. So in this documentary film, we can see that there are a lot of soldiers enforce this by demolishing homes and evicting residents, including Basel's own community and the houses there. That was very it was very difficult for me to see these footages because I mean, with the military force doing these to normal people, that is something that definitely something not easy to see and to view. And most importantly, I have to tell you that these people They are just normal people. And the whole thing, the timeline of this documentary, it happens all the ways before the Hamas conflict recently. So it happened all the way back to 2019. And according to the Palestinian, it's not according to the history, but according to the reality, the sort of Israeli settlement has been happening for a very, very long time, since the end of their war. Okay, anyway, so what's interesting in this documentary is that Basel befriends Yuval Abraham, who is another director of this documentary, and Yuval is a Jewish Israeli journalist. So with their friendship, it gives us a very interesting stark contrast, I would say, in terms of inequality. So Abraham, he lives under so Abraham, he has freedom and security because he's Israeli. So in this documentary, we can also see that Israeli people they have the pass to go through a lot of border and checkpoints. But Basel cannot do that because Basel is Palestinian and he is under a lot of oppression. So what I think this documentary is so interesting is that it also provides us a viewpoint, a perspective from an Israeli director, an Israeli journalist of Yuval Abraham. So it's not just about how Palestinians tell the story, but also how an Israeli journalist viewed this story. So the whole film documents everything happened here. Well, and also we can see that in this movie, the journalists, they are trying to publicize the situation, but sees little impact. So I watched these movies in Paris, as I said, after attending a conference at my school in Paris, because there was a Palestinian, I would say that is a conference, and a Palestinian activist joined us to share their daily lives in Palestine. And he talked about how Israeli settlements is everywhere. It has been there since his childhood, and Israeli civilians also occupy Palestinian land. And I mean, at the conference, we also talked about how their homeland was taken away and destroyed. So I would also like to give you a quick overview, a little knowledge for you. Actually, in 2024, the International Court of Justice, the ICJ, already declared that Israel's occupation of the Gaza Strip and the West Bank, including East Jerusalem, is unlawful. And the court added that Israel's legislation and measures violate the international prohibition on racial segregation. Because as I said, Palestinian and Israelis, they have different levels of freedom in this land. So, first of all, legally speaking, what Israel has been doing is unlawful. So that's the background of the documentary. And while I was watching the documentary, I think it really, really moved me. And I don't want to talk too much about the review because I think it's difficult to review this film. I would like to quote from The Guardian's Adrian Horton, another film critic. Well, from the article, we can see this line. I really love this line. So, it's difficult to review No Other Land, a documentary by a group of Palestinian and Israeli activist filmmakers on the destruction of villages in the West Bank on a formal level. The usual rubric for evaluating non-fiction cinema does not really extend to films whose existence was actively challenged throughout filming, whose makers, equipment, and livelihood were constantly at risk. It is exactly what I thought, The production of this film itself, it's something that we cannot judge or, let's say, reviewed. So it's really difficult to review this film. But I think this documentary film is the most visceral and bloody visual record of the reality in Gaza, in Palestine. And after watching it, I can understand why some pro-Palestinian voices, actually after the Oscars, they are not entirely satisfied with the film because it lacks comprehensive context and its appeals feel somewhat too weak. Yet, I would say it's undeniable that the four directors, combining Israelis and Palestinians, capture what they saw before their eyes and the fate of the villages around them, and this makes the images deeply personal and authentic. And that's what might seem like a flaw, but actually a strength. So, anyway, the authenticity of this film is also a strength of this film. And well, we're going to talk about how the Israeli the conflicts in Israel and actually the conflict in Gaza has been influencing Taiwanese politics later on the show. But before that, I would like to play you a little track to take a little rest. This is from one of my favorite singer artists from the UK. His name is Sam Fender, and he has been writing a lot about the social issues and then what's happening in our society, but this one is really, really interesting. This track is called Hypersonic Missiles. It talks about how we are indifferent to a lot of social issues, and most importantly, in this track, there's a line of lyrics talking about bombs in Gaza, and we're doing nothing. Okay, so let's give it a listen, and we'll be right back on Cinematic Motif. Don't go anywhere.
Tensions of the world are rising higher. We're probably due another war with all desire. I'm not smart enough to change a thing. I have no answers, only questions. Don't you ask a thing? They say I'm a nihilist, cause I can't see any decent rhyme or reason for the life of you and me. But I believe in what I'm feeling, and I'm praying for you. This world is gonna end, but till then I'll give you everything I'll give you everything
One of the things that I want to do the most with Cinematic Motif is that we can try to think about social issues with cultural artifacts like cinemas and music. So Sam Fender's track is very, very touching. It talks about the kids are bombed in Gaza, but we're literally doing nothing, and also the politics everywhere right now. That's one of the things that Sam Fender has been actively talking about in his track. So welcome back to Cinematic Motif. Today, as we talked about, we're talking about the documentary, Oscar-winning documentary, No Other Land, on our show today. And as promised, I would like to give you an update about the recent Taiwanese current affairs related to the Israeli and Palestinian conflict right now. So I would have to say over the past few weeks, Taiwan's relationship with Israel has taken some unexpected turns. Well, it all started on the 22nd of July. Taiwan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs addressed a controversial issue. Reports that Taiwan might donate a medical project in an Israeli settlement in the West Bank. This was first revealed by a foreign news agency, and then our Ministry of Foreign Affairs confirmed that there has been discussion on this. So the spokesperson, Xiao Guangwei, stressed that discussions were still going on and we focused strictly on humanitarian and medical cooperation, and he emphasized that Taiwan was not involved in investment or trade, but only wanting to extend healthcare aid in line with the WHO's principle of promoting public health across borders. But as we already talked about earlier today on the show, this could probably violate international law, since the ICJ ruling already says that the Israeli occupation is illegal. So there is a concern about this. So that is the biggest concern in the Taiwanese society. But the debate was just beginning. So 3 days later, on the 25th of July, it came a very different headline. So for the first time, more than half of Israel's parliament, 72 lawmakers across 11 political parties, signed a joint statement supporting Taiwan's international participation. This result show that Israeli parliament is supporting Taiwan. And of course, our Ministry of Foreign Affairs expressed our gratitude and say that we share democratic values and commitment to the global health and prosperity. But, well, it's interesting because, well, the Israeli parliament is supporting Taiwan in international participation, and that's probably part of the reasons why Taiwan is discussing on the cooperation with Israel in terms of aiding in their medical healthcare. But as we talked about, there is a controversy, big controversy, because of the concerns of whether this action would be illegal internationally. So on the 3rd of August, that's earlier last month, several groups staged a protest outside our foreign ministry in Taipei. And there were around 500 demonstrators gathered, chanting, banging pots, and, staging street theaters, and staining money with red paint to symbolize Palestinian blood. They accused the government of helping Israel, warning that this support of medical projects would make Taiwan part of the killing. However, our foreign ministry also clarified that there is no concrete funding had been committed to the West Bank project. And Taiwan has been, doing humanitarian aid to the Middle East, including Syrian refugees and Palestinian families. Well, the latest development recently is that our foreign minister, Lin Jialong, he published a strongly worded opinion piece in Israel's Jerusalem Post talking about how Taiwan is a vital partner in defending democracy and global stability. That happened on the 29th of August, just a few days earlier. So we can see that, well, the core point is that Israel supports Taiwan's participation in international organizations, but at the same time, there is a concern on whether Taiwan should aid a medical project, well, in the Israeli settlement. But I have to say, anything that happened has not been confirmed. The funding has not been confirmed by the foreign minister. What we have been reading on the news is that there is a discussion. The discussion is ongoing. So, well, what do you think? Do you think the Taiwanese government should do this or that? Because, well, I would say it's a difficult situation for Taiwan, because Israel's stance with Taiwan is supporting our participation, and Taiwanese government probably has to find a balance in diplomatic strategy and humanitarian concerns, or legal concerns, actually. So that is the big crisis happening recently in Taiwan, and that's something we can talk about with the film No Other Land. I hope you can actually go watch this documentary, whether you are pro this sort of Palestinian resistance or not, because documentaries is always a good way to view what's inside, what's happening there, because we cannot live in Palestine. So, well, that is a good way for you to know what's happening at least. And what's also interesting is that this documentary was not filmed after the Hamas incident. So what's happening, what happened in the documentary happened actually a few years back, like 4 or 5 years ago. So it gives you a sense that, well, what's happening in Palestine has been happening for a very, very long time. Well, anyway, that's all for this week's on Cinematic Motif. I hope you enjoy our discussion on the Taiwanese foreign policy, foreign recent news, and the movie No Other Land. And as always, if you've got any requests or feedback, send your email at wanson@rti.org.tw. And you can also follow me on my Instagram and YouTube. My handle is at wansonscfe. This has been Cinematic Motif. Thank you for tuning in, and I look forward to anything you want to tell me. Okay. And next week we're going to talk about the Cannes Film Festival with our guest Joanne, who was here last week. So do come back next week, okay? And I'll see you soon. Bye bye.